How do you think the world would react if a major political leader, like Trump, the Queen, or Kim Jong-un, died of COVID-19? Well, Trudeau's wife, from Canada, has been diagnosed, and now they are saying that Trump and Pence were exposed. This dude probably shook hands with Rudy Gobert this week too, with how many people he's come in contact with. Australian politician Peter Dutton has just tested positive and was at a Five Eyes meeting with Ivanka, so there's a chance she got it too and passed it on to Trump. The cabinet in Iran count? Not really, since the real power lies with the Ayatollah and his team of surly beard wizards. I don't think cabinets can contract COVID-19, just people. A lot of people I think would be shocked if the Queen died. That lady has survived some shit. But knowing the royal family, they probably got her on lockdown. I think Prince feels far more at risk. The man looks like he's been at death's door for as long as anyone can remember. I'd be more worried about Prince Philip. He already looks like a walking corpse. Like 70% of these comments are just "yeah, we are pretty sure the Queen is immortal at this point." Yes, but I'm pretty sure the Queen is immortal at this point. Edit, thanks for the silver LOL, didn't know people would think this was actually funny. Didn't you know? A joke only gets funnier the more it's repeated. I think Scotland Yard would have a few questions for Prince Charles. Are you asserting that he waited until she was 93, and he was 71, to finally off her? Is he the laziest usurper ever? Wait until Prince Charles dies and they have a few questions for the Queen. For sure we would run out of toilet paper. Get a bidet. But Kim Jong-un doesn't poop. He doesn't even have a butthole. Memes. This is the true for any major world event. Memes will always be made about it. This is definitely the only answer we can know is 100% correct. Most developed countries have protocols to replace a fallen leader. I think people would be shocked if Trump died, for example, because we haven't seen a president die in office since JFK, but for the most part, things would be business as usual. In less developed countries, a fallen leader could leave a power vacuum that could potentially lead to civil war. Pence. 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 Etc., etc. With Trump though, they don't seem to be taking precautions. He's still holding rallies. He's still shaking hands. He's in terrible health to start with. We don't have a substantial community level response. I'm not going to be shocked if he gets sick. I suppose he will have high quality medical treatment, but that doesn't seem to guarantee survival for this one. As much as I dislike Trump, a president dying in a crisis and contentious election would be incredibly destabilizing. Corona would die of the Queen more likely. Corona is Latin for the crown. It all makes sense now. Dun dun dun. Did Chuck Norris just become the Queen? Well, we all know the Queen wouldn't die because of the whole immortality thing, but I wouldn't imagine much changing. I would expect many leaders to want the next in line to be very similar to them in ideas and experience. I feel now may not be the time to tempt fate. If the Queen dies, it's this guy's fault. He tempted fate. If Trump were diagnosed, I bet it would not be released publicly. Except his administration leaks like the sky in the Pacific Northwest. The news here this morning was reporting that he's refusing to be tested even though he has been in direct and proximate contact with at least one person confirmed to be infected. I suspect his ego won't allow him to consider the possibility that a disease could kill him. Personally, I'm more curious about what happens if one or more of the nominees for president dies in the run-up to the election. I understand the succession for the current term, POTUS v POTUS speaker etc., but what happens if Biden and/or Sanders dies, or Trump dies prior to the election? Does it just roll down the ticket and the VP nominee picks a new VP candidate? Do the parties have to endorse a new candidate? What if the presidential candidate on both sides dies? Not that big a stretch given they're all over 70 with known health issues who have had significant direct contact with a large number of random strangers since community transmission started. Someone like Trump, even if he is old, has access to the best medical care in the world. If he dies, even with the best medical care in the world, I think that's a real oh shit moment for people. Markets are on fire, and I can't find toilet paper, as things are now. A clear sign that this can kill even those with the best possible care would be an economic disaster. Government would continue to function better, I'd argue, but they'd have a serious crisis on their hands, much worse than this. I tend to agree with this. Regardless of how anyone feels about the three, I think it would exponentially crank the panic level up for exactly the reasons you listed. It is speculative on my part, but not hard to believe Trump and the Queen have access to the unrivaled best health care sourced from anywhere on the globe they can find it. Even if they are in high-risk groups, killing anyone at their level is going to make the panic of today look like a calm summer afternoon. Yeah, Trump won't be fighting for a ventilator at Walter Reed. I'm sure there's also rigid protocols to keep his environment clean and virus-free, although you damn well know that he isn't washing his hands according to CDC guidelines. The reason you can't find toilet paper is that we so efficiently produce toilet paper that a 2PCT disruption exhausts inventory. It is not a leading indicator, it is not a meaningful signal, the number of assholes has not changed, it may actually go down. Honestly, if we had enough TP on hand to supply the demand spike, it would indicate we are producing way the fuck too much TP. I'm not saying everything will be fine, I'm saying TP has nothing to do with it. Consumers are preparing, which is good. They should. But a healthy economy should produce this kind of shortage in extreme circumstances. If the shelves are empty of TP, it means your community is preparing for measures that they should be taking. It would suck to have to break quarantine just because you had ass-spraying mayhem. Corporate equity markets are on fire. That isn't markets. That's stocks, the most risk-bearing instrument that exists in the public consciousness. Immediately discount the opinion of anyone who talks about the Dow. Bid/ask is rational, and those markets are actually functioning like they should. If you want to get out, you can. If you want to get in, you can. Between CV and oil, the future free cash flows of those entities is going to be worse, and that is being incorporated into price. Here is what to watch out for: liquidity seizures. That is a real crisis bomb that could turn a very isolated problem into a structural credit problem. The good news is this is a problem that central banks are specifically empowered to solve. They were basically created to solve it. The Fed is being criticized, to be clear, on Twitter, by rubes, because their operations today didn't create a rally in the Dow. But that wasn't the point. The point was to make sure your credit card still works, as does your employer's. And your employer needs that credit card to work for another 6 months.